I guess what I like most about the industry is something you guys said, is it's small, right? I think people think the golf industry is huge, but I feel like I know someone from every golf company. I've been connected with people from every golf company. And I think the cool part is that they value the opinions of people who are small.
All right, everybody, today on the Wedgies podcast, we've got an awesome guest, somebody we're really excited to talk to, somebody who is kind of working in a little bit the same space we are, watching the golf industry, one of the gurus of golf, we like to call it, Clayton. Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thank you for having me, fellas. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
I want to ask first, where are you coming to the pod from right now? Obviously, we're remote. Let us know where you are.
So I am currently in Chicago, specifically the West Loop. So it's like 25-minute walk from downtown, but it's still technically downtown.
Gotcha. Are you you like it there? You big Chicago guy? You from Chicago originally?
No, I'm from Oregon originally. I moved out to Chicago when I first became remote at GM. I was originally in Michigan. But with the whole pandemic, GM moved everyone away from the headquarters, which were downtown. We had a super nice building, big, probably one of the biggest buildings in Detroit, but now we're in the suburbs. So I wanted to get that, big city experience that I was missing. So decided to move out here, work remote. I liked Chicago. It was great for the first year, but I would say it kind of loses its, specialness after you do everything once. And now it's just super expensive and cold, and taxes are high. So need a little change now.
Are we allowed to announce that on the pod that the big move down to Scottsdale?
Yeah.
I guess you just did.
Yeah.
I guess we just did.
Second week of April, I'm ready to do it. Ready to be in Scottsdale. I know everyone's always like, yeah, but that summer heat. I'm like, that's why they invented air conditioning. So I'd rather be able to do something outside than be stuck because of snow. So.
Yeah, totally.
What are you most looking forward to with the move? Like Arizona, what's the number one thing on your list that you want to get out and do once you get there?
So I've been to Arizona a lot. Like I told you guys before we started this, I have family out there. My cousins live there. My grandparents live there. I spent a lot of years playing baseball in the summers there. But I would say the thing I'm looking forward to most is just being able to go outside and see mountains. I don't know if you guys know this, but the Midwest is super, super flat. And being from Oregon, I'm used to hills and mountains and scenery. And although Arizona is a different type of scenery than Oregon, I'm just excited to be able to go outside, see mountains, and also just be in the sun, right? Be able to play golf more. Totally. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. Nothing really specific, but yeah.
Yeah, just a better outdoor environment. I love that. Well, I'd love to dig deep. Obviously you mentioned you're from Oregon.
Definitely.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about how, your kind of path toward Esquire golf. Like obviously Esquire's, kind of how we got in contact, how we came to know each other. What's your history with golf? You played your whole life?
So I grew up playing baseball. I played college baseball at Chico State, Northern California school. After that, went to grad school at Michigan State. I grew up around golf. My grandparents lived in Saratoga, so San Jose area, and my grandpa was a member at a club there. So every time I would visit, we would go to the club, play, and they also had a house in Carmel Valley Ranch. So I'd play that course when I was young, but I didn't play outside of the times I was with my grandpa. So I really didn't pick up golf like seriously until last summer.
Wow.
Probably like May-ish time frame. And that's when I realized that I was obsessed with it. And with that obsession comes wanting to spend money on apparel, on tee times. And I was like flabbergasted by how much I was spending. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I can create some content, get some following, maybe I get some free stuff or something like that. Really didn't know what it would turn into, what my focus wanted to be, but kind of got some inspiration from Ray from Golf Projects. I'm sure you guys follow him. I like the business side. That's my background. I got my JD MBA. I love branding and seeing how brands can grow, and how marketing can help with that. So I don't know, I combined that, my interest in like style and fashion, and then my newfound passion for golf, and started focusing on kind of like that golf apparel side of things. And obviously it's expanded since then. I didn't want to kind of pigeonhole myself into being just this one guy that only does this one thing. So I've started doing more than that. But that's kind of how it started. I didn't, when I started it, I think it was July 26th was my first post. I didn't expect to be where it is today. It's been super fun. I think the coolest part about it is meeting the people that are in the industry, like you guys, right? And building relationships. And, really at this point, I feel like I know someone in every state who I could go play golf with because of the social media platform. I think that's the coolest part. Like, getting free stuff and is great. Like, don't get me wrong, but the relationships that I've built, I think, are easily the best part about it.
Yeah, I think we could speak to that a little bit. Like, we've been doing Wedge for a little over 2.5 years, almost 3 now, actually. And when people ask me about it and talk to me about it, that's a similar answer that I give them, meaning the thing that has surprised me the most is the amount of people we've been able to meet in the rooms that we've been in the short amount of time that we've been able to do it. Kind of like you said, like, once you get into this space, you realize it's actually quite a small space.
It's a community.
Yeah, and everybody knows everybody. And so if you're just doing your thing, you're an honest person, obviously working hard, grinding, and trying to grow the game and, get people into it from different avenues and different angles, like, everybody's friends, right? So that's interesting. I think your experience kind of parallels ours a little bit in a way, too. Sure. For sure.
Yeah, I think we noticed that really heavily going into our second year at the PGA show. The first year that we went, I don't know, you were like, we just felt lucky to be there. Like, it was just like the coolest. It felt like Christmas. Grew up playing golf, both of us, and everybody within our company, like, big golf fans. So it was like getting to meet your heroes almost. And then the second year, it was funny because, again, it was only the second year, but pretty much every booth, there was somebody I could walk into and ask, oh, hey, where's so-and-so from such company? Hey, where's so-and-so? And like, having known everybody that quickly, it speaks to obviously how small the industry is, but also how like welcoming most companies are.
And I think the other thing too, talking about the PGA show specifically, is one of the things that surprised me most about year 2 was the people that came up to us or recognized us or knew us.
For no reason.
And I think it's a testament to where the game of golf as a sport is at, and definitely where the business is at. Right? Like, there's never been more attention, more eyeballs, more energy for the game than we currently have right now. And so that golf content that you create, that we create, and that world that we're in is going farther than it's ever gone. And so that kind of surprised me. Like, it's not like every single person that came up to us was somebody that we've worked with. There was people we'd never met before that knew who we were. I think it's just a testament to where the game is at, and obviously we're putting out content in that space, which has a little bit wider of a reach.
What was your experience, Clayton? Kind of this being your first year out there. What was your experience with that PGA show?
Well, I would say it was similar to what you guys said the first year, where you just feel lucky to be there, right? Like, to me, it was like, as many companies and brands that I've worked with were there, and all the ones that I haven't, it was just like eye-opening to walk in. I was kind of like taken back. It was a little overwhelming at first, but it was one of the coolest things ever. Like, some people are like, oh, it's a lot of walking. And I'm like, I'm down to walk that thing from 8 a.m. till it ends. Like, I had so much fun talking to people, getting content, shaking hands. And I think the coolest part, like, when you guys said, like, the community is small, people recognize you. It's like, me and Nicole, we walked in within 5 minutes. The people from my golf spy were like, Esquire Golf. And it was just like cool to see a massive account like My Golf Spy recognize you. And the one thing that they said that will really stick with me was like, your grind doesn't go unnoticed. So I work hard to get out a lot of content. Some of it's good, some of it's not. How it is. But for other people to see like the effort, and recognize that, like, that was pretty special. But overall, I mean, I think one of the coolest parts was putting Instagram handles to faces and meeting people, and even meeting people that like I haven't really engaged with much. Everyone was like, go to this bar after the first day. It was like the one across the street at the Hyatt, and I go there and I'm like, God, there are some huge creators here, brand owners here. And it was just awesome to feel like, sometimes you have like that imposter syndrome when, I haven't been playing golf my whole life. I haven't been in the industry that long. And it was like the first time where I'm like, okay, maybe I belong, right? People recognize me. People tell me they like what I'm doing. And it was a cool feeling. It was like, all that effort, all that hard work, all the DMs back and forth paid off in a way, right? I'm still small, but it kind of showed me that the effort is worth it.
Yeah.
So
well,
it was an awesome experience. I cannot wait for year 2, like our second year.
You're going to have more fun. I promise you.
For sure. And that was funny because that's even how we ran into each other. I remember I walked past you and your wife, made it about 5 to 10 steps, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that was Esquire. We've been talking like crazy. I didn't even really know you by your first name at this point. And ended up actually, I don't know if you saw this, I was jogging after you as you were walking down the thing, and I was like, hey, are you? And we ended up chatting. But no, it was an awesome little setup. So as you were meeting and talking to a lot of the brands there, and just kind of as you're getting into this industry in general, I'd love to kind of hear, obviously, you've got that JD MBA background. You're the smartest guy on this call right now, so I want to make sure we ask you the right questions. But what's kind of been your review of the golf industry? As you're kind of coming at it from this business perspective. What do you like about it? What maybe you think is kind of funny about the industry? What are you
Where
kind
do you
of
see
seeing?
it going?
Yeah, all the questions.
I guess what I like most about the industry is something you guys said, is it's small, right? I think people think the golf industry is huge, but I feel like I know someone from every golf company. I've been connected with people from every golf company. And I think the cool part is that they value the opinions of people who are small. When you first start getting into content, I think you assume that brands only want to work with big names. But then you start to realize that there's a lot of value in those like micro creators who have pretty engaging, consistent audiences, almost more so than the ones with big audiences who actually don't get, how would I put this? They don't get like the same level of engagement based on the following. You guys know what I mean by that?
Yeah, for sure.
But I still think that there's a lot of opportunity for innovation when it comes to marketing and connecting with certain people. Obviously, every brand is different. Their target audience is different. So how they're going to approach marketing is going to be different. But I'm starting to see more creative going into marketing, especially with these smaller brands like Students Golf, Forden Golf, Public Drip, Quiet Golf. They're doing things more curated. I work for a big company, and when you get to a certain size, it's almost hard to keep your finger on the pulse. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're starting to see now is the young, smaller brands are pushing the bigger brands to be more agile when it comes to marketing and work with different types of people to elevate their marketing and reach different audiences. So I think there's going to be a huge opportunity in the next few years for a lot of smaller creators to get involved and work with these bigger companies as they start seeing the value. And I think you start seeing it with like Nike. Like, why is Nike Golf dropping some of their big names? And, this is my opinion. I don't know if this is true or not, but Nike Golf has been losing money for, X amount of years, and they're paying these guys massive amounts of money. And I doubt Jason Day brought in $100 million in sales to Nike in his time, right? When you could go out and spend $1,000 for a couple posts on a small creator and probably actually move the needle more, right? And your money goes further. And I think brands are starting to see that, that the big investment in one or two creators isn't as powerful as investing in a bunch of small ones. But in general, I think the industry is at a really cool place, more inclusive than it's ever been. And you start to see that with like the different types of apparel that's coming into the industry, the different types of people you see in the industry. I bet you at one point you walked through the PGA show and most people were in collared shirts and suits. I mean, you saw it while we were there.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore. There's like a streetwear influence. There's a lifestyle influence now, and you're starting to see different types of people in the industry, whether that's accepted by the masses, still to be determined. But I like how it's changing. I like how it's growing, and I like how, in a way, it's like apparel that's driving that change. So I'm excited. I don't know what's to come, but I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming in the future with bigger brands or new brands.
Yeah, definitely. No. I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of different opportunity and a lot of different room for some of these brands to get in, and also for the legacy brands to elevate or to innovate their offerings to something that's a little bit different. And that's what I've loved seeing about, obviously, like, one of the biggest names doing this is Malbon. Malbon coming in and kind of making a big shift into what's accepted or what's really even allowed on the PGA Tour and what people are willing to wear and to promote. With Jason Day, you're seeing a lot more brands and a lot more different people getting involved in that, to where, there's so many brands outside of golf or within golf looking to find ways to get into the sport, because that community aspect that has, it's in the, not only the golf, professional side that we see at the PGA show, it's the same way on, your local muni every other Thursday, where people are going to be having that same community aspect, wearing, everybody wants to wear what their buddies are wearing, getting involved with what their buddies are getting involved in a way that, if more brands can kind of capitalize on that, we're going to see a lot of really cool kind of apparel lines.
Yeah, and just
to
touch on the Malbon thing, I think the coolest part about what they're doing is that they're kind of making golf cool in a way, and making Jason Day look cool. I think when you see sports like NBA, NFL, MLB, they put emphasis on, like, what are the guys wearing before games, right? There's always those pictures, and they're trying to stay, like, culturally relevant and build brands for these people. And I feel like golf is one sport that they don't do a very good job of building individual brands for people. And they almost inhibit it in a way. Like, you see what Bryson DeChambeau is doing at Live and his social media, and in my opinion, that's cool. So that's what I'm most excited about with what Malbon's doing. And I think that they're creating this trend in general for other brands to realize that, like, golf is cool. We need to make others see that as well.
I would agree. I think they're obviously kind of spearheading it and acting as the poster child for that in a way. I think, as I'm thinking about it, like, it kind of comes back to community, where, like, growing up, and, like, we've talked about this on the podcast before too, but, like, Dane mentioned already in this episode that we both grew up playing golf since we were kids, and it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool for years. All growing up, it wasn't cool. When we were teenagers, it wasn't cool. And when I first met Dane in school, in college, it was golf that connected us. But the only reason he knew that I golfed is because I said I liked to golf in a class when we were introducing ourselves. And this inclusivity culture is doing, and you've talked a lot about apparel, Clayton, on this one, kind of spearheading the change in golf. Is it's just a way for us to express ourselves at its core. That's what apparel is, right? And then now being able to express your love of the game or a relationship with the game without having to say anything is something that we didn't have back then. Like, I can wear Malbon now or Nike or whatever it may be. Like, back then it had to be a hat and a collared shirt and slacks and spiked shoes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, that guy likes golf because he looks like he's going to play golf. Whereas, like, I could always buy, like, a Los Angeles Lakers t-shirt or a jersey or a Rams jersey. But I just think about, like, even then, even a few years ago when we met, there was nothing that I could outwardly express that says, I'm a golfer, are you as well?
I remember fighting my high school golf coach because we wanted flat-brimmed hats.
Oh, that's a no-go.
And that was, I mean, you would have thought we threatened his family. Like, it was insane how much he was like, no, we can't do this, we can't do that. And
it was very traditional, and it was very on course. And so this apparel being a natural way to express yourself anywhere, and golf fitting into that now, I think is awesome.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense that it started with apparel, and I don't see it going away.
No.
Yeah, and the one cool thing about golf compared to any other sport, right, is like baseball, you have a specific uniform. You're not wearing what you're wearing on the baseball field out to a bar. Same with football, same with basketball. I can go play 18 holes in whatever I'm wearing and go to the bar with what
Yep.
I'm wearing. Maybe before that wasn't as likely, right? With slacks, belt, collared shirt, a, curved hat.
Yeah.
But now you can wear all these different things where it's like there's this easy crossover. And like you said, you can express yourself on the course and off the course, and you can rock golf apparel without screaming, I'm a golfer, right? But at the same time, if you know, right? Like when I see someone in a bad birdie hat in the airport, I kind of have this like,
Yep.
make
Yeah,
eye
exactly.
contact with them, and you're like, we're homies.
But then that same
automatically.
hat is being rocked by NBA players in the tunnel.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say like
It's
golf
awesome.
fashion is kind of even transcending other sports. Like the cool thing about golf is like what you wear on the course, you can wear off the course. And so like what we're wearing on the course, you're starting to see athletes in other sports wear it off the course. And I just think that that's an interesting thing that's happening with the apparel. And I mean, there's going to be a lot more influence with golf apparel and I think general culture and style. And you're already seeing that. People sitting courtside wearing Eastside Golf Jordans,
Yeah.
right? Like you never see that 5 years
Travis
ago.
Scott
So-
Jordans, dude. I just got back from Arizona yesterday, and in the airport, I saw 3 different guys with the Travis Scott Jordan 1 golf shoes. And the rest of their fit was just a fit. Like, and I don't even know if these guys golf or not.
Yeah.
But that's the cool part is like, if you know, but you can also just express yourself in different ways. Maybe they did come from the course. I don't know. But like those kinds of products, those kinds of things, that kind of messaging was not there 10 years ago. Wasn't there 5 years ago.
I wish it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that right there is what's going to really help grow the game. It might not be immediate, but over the next 3-5 years, those people who might be influenced by golf style may get into golf, right? Just like naturally.
Yep.
And it's cool to see how like just apparel can change the game or change people's perspective of the game. I know there's two sides there. There's still a lot of people who are sick when they see Malbon stuff. But like I'm one of those people that I like to accept change, right? When I see that change is good. And I think growing the game is good for everyone involved. Less courses being shut down because they're not making enough money, more brands at different price points for more people, more brands that resonate with you that maybe didn't resonate with you before, or there weren't brands that resonated with you before. It's cool to see how much just like a change of apparel is influencing the entire industry.
Yeah.
It's not live, I really think it's apparel. And it's weird to think that.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Obviously, as you've been looking around the golf landscape and the golf industry, what's maybe a brand that isn't, the size of, your Nike, your Malbon, your Callaway, your Mizuno, but what's a smaller brand that you're seeing right now that you're really liking the way whether it's innovation or the marketing they're doing or the product they're putting on the floor? What's one that's catching your eye right now?
There's honestly quite a few brands that like catch my eye, but there's one that I really admire, and it's Radmore Golf based in Seattle. They have their mission is all about sustainability. They don't use virgin plastics, which means like recycled plastics. I think that's what it means. I forgot, but they have their apparel is awesome. The quality of the apparel is awesome. The style is awesome. And I love how they stick to that mission, right? It's like the problem with golf is that there's so much being created. There's so many accessories and a lot of plastic. So if more companies could put, sustainability at the core of their mission, it would benefit, the world a lot better. But Radmore, I think, is a very, very underrated brand that's on the come up that I really, really like. But there's a lot of small brands that I think are awesome and are doing cool things. So it's not just Radmore. but that is one that really stood out even at the PGA show when I stopped by their booth. I don't know if they get enough love, but they're quality.
Awesome. Tanner, how about you?
One that's standing out that's smaller.
Smaller brand catching your eye.
I'm gonna plug one of our buddies,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why. Well, he's a friend too, but honestly, they're small, and they've got a lot of plans coming up. But I'm gonna throw Platypus out there.
Oh, wow.
You didn't see that one coming.
No.
But I'll tell you why. Because, so Tom, the owner,
Yep.
super cool guy. Honestly, really, really innovative. And he's got products that he sells right now. He's kind of got like a bread and butter product that, keeps the business going and growing, like evergreen. Like, why wouldn't you want that, right? But then, like, with that, developing new products, and not just new products, but innovating on existing products. Like, I'll shamelessly plug his divot tool all day long.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just the divot tool, but something about it, and I talked to him about it a little while ago, and he shared some specs with me and stuff like that, but he really got into the weeds of, like, how they work, pressure points, fulcrums, and whatnot. And it's just like, even before I talked to him about all of that stuff and told him I love the tool, it's one that stayed in my bag when all the other ones would get lost, or I just wouldn't use them, and I'd use a T instead. But like that one I religiously use. And then as I talked to him, he's like, oh, well, I'm glad to hear that because I did this and this and this and this with it. And he's got some other things that he's working on, some other things that he wants to do. And so just getting innovative with it, I really appreciate his mind and his attention to detail and innovation and making new things or making things that we use every day better.
Better. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Oh, that's awesome. Clayton, are you familiar with Platypus? Platypus Golf?
No, I'm
We'll
not.
send some
I'll have
stuff
to
your
check
way.
them out.
He helps us out with our golf tournament every year, so there's a lot of different
They're
stuff.
great. They're awesome people.
You'll be a fan in no time.
All right, I'll have to check them out.
I think the one that I would plug right now, and this is one that I've had some messages with a few of their guys on Instagram. It's kind of that same thing. I'd know them by Instagram handle more than I'd know them by face or name, but it's the guys over at Mantra Golf.
Yeah.
Are doing a really good job in the messaging and the marketing of what they're doing and kind of in that community building aspect. It's the same reason that, honestly, what drove me to get really passionate about the content creation side of golf back when, we were first having the idea to start Wedge was kind of the way that Random Golf Club build their community and to have an awesome community around what they built was really, really cool to me. And I've been drawn to a community kind of aspect like that for a long time. And it's been cool to see how these guys over at Mantra are doing the same thing. They're trying to build a community around, because at the end of the day, we're all selling polos. We're all selling, kind of the same thing. And we're all selling, the divot tools like Tanner just mentioned. But the way they've kind of said, like, hey, let's use this as a way to all come together and, create some really cool storytelling content and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think the connecting thread between the brands that we all three talked about is, doing something more than just the game, like Radmore with their sustainability, right?
Yep.
Using golf as an entry point into a larger message. Community is obviously huge, innovation's huge, but using golf as a vehicle for these other bigger, greater ideas and things is what makes the game so awesome, in my opinion. And the fact that it's diversifying just makes it more accessible for greater things to get involved. That's the stuff that I'm drawn to at the end of the day.
100%.
I think that's what connects the three things we talked about.
Well, and you guys mentioned community. I feel like that is one of the most important things brands need to realize and figure out how to do, especially with so many new brands popping up all the time. Like you said, Dane, a lot of people do the exact same stuff. How do you differentiate yourself? They're all using the same type of material, getting it from the same manufacturer, putting their logo in the same spot. But how do you get people to buy into that, right? And it's through storytelling. It's through really like what I touch on in my brand series videos. The first part is I pretty much go to their site, I look at their about me, and I read their story, right? And some brands do a better job of telling that story than others, but some do a much better job of telling that story with the content they put out and the products they put out. So North Coast Golf is one. They're Michigan-based. A lot of their inspiration comes from Northern Michigan, and you can see that in their products too, right? So they'll do stuff that like are inspired by Northern Michigan. And if you're a Michigan person, you want to wear it because it connects you to it, right? You automatically feel this like emotional connection when you wear the Petoskey Stone glove or the Spartan Green glove, right? As a Michigan State alum, like that's cool to me. And that's how you build a community that actually will then transcend to others as well, right? You don't have to be from Michigan to want to wear their stuff. But you built this community of people who just want to, hey, you got to check these out. You got to check these out, right? And so I feel like a lot of these young brands need to understand that building a community is super important. There's different ways to build community, obviously. But one I always like to touch on is, I don't know if you guys have heard of baseballism. Have you guys heard of baseballism before? So baseballism is an off-the-field lifestyle brand. They started probably 15 or so years ago. They're really successful now, right? Like they have a big social media presence. They do a lot of sales, D2C. They have storefronts, MLB licensing. They're in big box stores. But the cool thing about what they did is before they ever sold a product, the 4 founders built out like a Facebook group called Baseballism. And they started posting like baseball sayings. And that's kind of where they got the baseballism from. It was like these baseball isms that people say and they can relate to. And they had this community already built before they ever sold a product.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people come in and they'll have 5 different polos, 5 different hats, divot tools, towels. And I'm like, I can't imagine spending all that money. And it's the product is just going to sit there as a new brand because you're not going to sell it fast enough. You need to build a community of people who are going to be willing to buy your stuff really before you put all that equity into product. If I were a golf brand, I'd focus on that community aspect or one specific product and then build from there, right?
Yep.
I think a lot of people try to do too much at the start, and I feel like that's actually their demise.
It's
to be
detrimental.
honest.
And that's actually that story you told there. It's similar to the story we heard a few weeks ago on the podcast with the guys who run Bogey Bros. The same kind of idea there, where they started an Instagram page where they were sharing memes. They were sharing, funny golf themed things and stories and things that golfers would relate to and golfers would understand. And then when they started releasing hats that were like in the same humor theme, and that community immediately said, "Oh, we're all here and we trust you. We see you as a source of this humor and this comedy. And we also feel a part of this community, so we want to represent this community, wear it on the course, all that kind of stuff." So, yeah, I think
there's truth to that.
Any way you can genuinely and build that community in an authentic way. That's the same thing that David Matthews told us a few weeks. David Matthews has been running marketing over at Mizuno for years and years, and we asked him, what's the number one thing? It's authenticity.
Yeah.
How can you be authentic in the way you tell that story and the way you build that community? And so that's one of the really cool things there. Well, we've been going here for about 35 minutes. One thing, obviously, as we talked about this before, we'd love to have, you on as a regular guest so we can talk with frequently about, basically industry
This
check-ins.
ever-changing golf landscape.
Exactly.
Yeah, no kidding.
But before we do that, I mean, what's next for Clayton? What's next for Esquire Golf? What's on the horizon?
So, like we talked about earlier, obviously moving to Arizona. And I think with that, obviously my focus is always going to be what's paying the bills, which is work. But I think what that allows me to do while I'm there, I'll be working East Coast hours. So starting really, really early in the morning, being done, 1, 2 p.m., going to have a lot more time to golf. But I think what's next for me is maybe more on-course stuff, right? Like taking that personality that I've created that people are used to and bringing that on course, right? And still highlight the stuff that I'm wearing, the stuff brands send me, but bring golf into it, right? Most of my content is me behind a camera. So I think I want to switch things up. And I think going to Arizona gives me that opportunity because of the people that are there. A lot of the creators that are there are people who do stuff on course. So hopefully maybe getting involved with more of those people, collabing with them. But really, it's just like staying consistent, grinding it out, day by day, figuring out what works. A lot of what I do is like test and learning, pretty much, right? Like what's working, what's not. And that's kind of what I like most about this page is that I'm able to, there's no restrictions. And I think the coolest part about it is, I'm a marketer. I started in brand marketing at General Motors. I switched over to strategy, and this kind of allows me to keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening within social media and what people are doing and what brands are doing to get engagement and build their audience and sell products. And so, for me, it's just keep doing the same thing and trying new things and, reassess, every month.
Well, hey man,
no plans.
We love what you're doing. We love the brand. We love Esquire. Like I said, we're day one followers and love being able to kind of follow what you've built. And hopefully there's opportunities for us to keep creating together and keep getting on that train. So let's say this is part one of many, and we'll talk again soon.
Let's do it. Thanks, boys. I really appreciate you having me on. This was awesome. And I look forward to seeing you guys keep growing it. You guys are crushing it. So
appreciate it, man.
Appreciate the opportunity to come on and chat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure, man.
Okay.
All right.
Take it easy.
Take care, fellas.
Okay.
Cut the camera.